I wanted to do another $0 5-day survival challenge and do it much better than my last one with more information, better quality. Hey, I've got a new video camera, so that'll help. But unfortunately my home and work situation is not going to allow me to get out for 5 days in the foreseeable future. So I'm going to try and do a heap of just small videos about other survival topics, more native foods, and we'll see how we go. As you can see, today I'm by the coast. I live in southern Victoria, so it's easy for me to come down to the coast. In January and February, you can find the most native foods down by the coast. You don't even have to fish. There's just plant foods everywhere. You can fish, but if you can see the sea behind me, it's rough. It's very difficult to fish in this sea. Over to the west, there's a really good river that has lots of fish in it. Of course, I can't actually do any survival fishing here because it's a national park, and even with a fishing license, and I use toggle hooks. Toggle hooks tend to damage the fish, whether themselves or taking them out, so they can't be returned. And a lot of the fish in that river, the fish by the edge of the river that are easiest to catch are too small. They're not legal size, so I can't do any catching of those. But we'll see what we can do about plant foods, and maybe I can even find some animal foods that can show you some of the things that you can eat around here. This is my absolute favourite part of Australia. The bush here, the sea, the different styles of bush. What's the word? I'll put it down here. Means that there's a huge variety of plants and animals, and it's just a lovely part of Australia. Oh, overhead somebody's flying an aeroplane. You can see that the coastline around here is very sandy. There's no rocks, no outcrops, which means it's difficult to actually find food on the beaches here unless a dead fish or a seal or something washes up. Occasionally seals will come in for a rest. If you were starving, you could probably spear a seal, but you have to be careful because if they lunge at you, they can be fast and cause a lot of damage. But honestly, it's difficult to find a lot of food actually on the beach here, so you've got to go inland to find things to eat. Okay, thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to look at another bush food. This is often quite difficult to spot in the bush because it's such a very fine creeper. But this is it here, Emu Berry. Now there are a few types in this species, Billardiera species. I'll put this particular one down here. I'll just give you a closer look. It produces very little sausage-shaped berries in late winter, late summer. As you can see, this Billardiera has pretty blue flowers, but the fruits are what we're more interested in, is these little sausage-shaped fruits. None of these are ripe at the moment. I'll just show you some more. There's some more unripe ones. They turn quite dark when they're ripe. I don't particularly like the flavour of this one. In fact, it's really hard to find them at perfect ripeness on any of the species. But it's just another one to look out for. It's just this little creeping plant, vining plant, has this sort of leaf on it, and these should be ripe. We'll give it another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, although there's some new baby fruit still happening there. Okay, now right next to this Balladiera is this little creeping vining plant here. It's a native clematis, and it grows over everything. And they also call it, it's Clematis Aristata, if I remember correctly, and it is also commonly called old man's beard because in January it produces masses of white fluffy seed heads which just cover everything. And okay, going along a bit, and we find the last of the ruby saltbush. Produces little red berries. Look, personally I don't like the flavour of the berries, but the leaves taste quite good. They're a bit salty, but they taste much better than the berries. The berries do have one good use though. If you find the right mordant, they would probably work well as a dye. I'll try and find a plant that has some better berries on it. Here. They have very bright red juice. Oh, and down there's a little bit of New Zealand spinach, Botany Bay greens. At this time of year, the end of February, all the fruits have basically disappeared. But in January and earlier in February, there is just food everywhere. Down there, if you can see it, there's a few late berries of the ruby saltbush. But that's just about it now for the native foods. Oh, another plant that's always available, well, for most of the year, down there is your native parsley. I've covered that before, but it can usually be found for any time except winter. Now further on down the beach we come to the Glenelg River Estuary. Estuaries are great places to find food. The marshes, the shallow water and that are home to a massive amount of plants and animals and birds. If you've got rocky outcrops, you can make fish traps, and if there's a tide, they work even better. So let's give you a bit of a closer look at this estuary. As you can see, fishing is allowed here as long as you follow the rules. There's one person here fishing in the shallows, but collecting plants and that isn't allowed simply because it's a national park here. I'm not sure if you can see, but you can see the waves of the ocean in the background down there, and this is all very protected along this area. A few rocks just here, but there's marshy areas all around here that have lots of different types of birds on them, and of course the water has lots of shallow water fish. Going around this little rocky area, you may not be able to see it, but there are swans and pelicans, just as well as other seabirds standing and swimming in the water. There are wallabies, lying around on the outside. It's just a beautiful area. Right, as I was walking around these rocks, I noticed that there's a lot of samphire growing here. Samphire is a bit salty, but it's a lovely green, cooked green. You can eat it raw, or you can steam it. It's quite tender, and it just grows like this in these sort of stems. So that's another edible that's available all year round. And it's all growing along these rocks here in the estuary. Okay, another edible plant I've just noticed, well, is, I can't remember the name of it. It's related to things like amaranth. It's this one here. It has arrow-like leaves. I'm not sure if it's native or not, but the leaves are great as a cooked vegetable. It sort of creeps around like this. And over here, with the purple flowers, the pink flowers, is some sort of brassica. I don't know what this one actually is, but it will be edible. Let's see, it's got these funny shaped pods on it, if you can see. Some sort of wild mustardy thing. I'll just have a taste of a pod. Very mustardy flavour, but that's also edible. It's got quite thick leaves, so it's obviously a seaside native, or a seaside plant. Whether it's native or not is another matter. I'll have to look that up. Okay, this is kangaroo apple. It grows on ground that's been disturbed. It produces these berries, which are edible when perfectly ripe and starting to split, but you don't eat too many or they'll give you a gut ache. I've made chutney out of them, been really good instead of tomatoes. These are actually in the tomato family. I'll see, the leaves aren't out yet, it's early in the morning, but they're definitely tomato and potato looking flowers. So they grow in many areas. You'll find them all over the place where soil has been disturbed. This plant here is growing long straight leaves like this, but the leaves are very variable. Most kangaroo apples will have actually deeply lobed leaves with 3 lobes. You You probably don't realise it, but I'm standing, I'm kneeling in the centre of a mat of one of the best native foods we've got in Australia, Muntrees. It's a low spreading ground cover plant called Kangaroo Apple, but yeah, commonly called Muntrees. And I'll give you a closer look. Look, it's the end of February, the fruit's all gone, but I have found a couple of fruits left on the plant, so I'll just give you a quick look at those. It's, as you can see, it's a low growing plant. It grows in the far southwest of Victoria and also up to Murray Bridge in South Australia along the coast. It's a coastal plant, grows on the sand dunes and sandy soil, but I have seen it growing on clay too, and it grows really well in your garden. But let's have a look. Here's a fruit. They're tiny, they taste like dried apples, but when the plants are in fruit, the plants are just covered in fruit, so they're easy to pick. Just tiny little berries, but you can pick a lot of them, so it's a really good fruit, tastes delicious. Oh, here's another couple on here, but really they've just finished. They finished about a month ago, so these are unusually late couple of fruits. Oh, here's another fruit here. When they're ripe, they have a red tinge to them. They could be half green, half red. But definitely worth growing for the flavour and because it's a lovely little ground cover plant. You can see how it's growing in these mats alongside the road next to this pine plantation. Grows about up to about 20 centimetres, sometimes a bit taller in when it's growing really well, but usually around 10 to 20 centimetres tall. It's not a very vigorous plant, so it's not going to take over your garden, so it really is worth growing. And well, that's really all the fruits that I've found by the coast today, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see what I can do, maybe river native foods that grow besides rivers next time. We'll see. Thanks for watching.